Hey Mari, it's absolutely awesome to be with you today, and thank you so much for sharing your book in the Lockdown Library. The Lockdown Library was really just an initiative to get some amazing books together for free, because I thought in lockdown people have got more time to read, and I'm a passionate reader and learner. So thank you so much for offering to add your book to the library. Now we have a couple of things in common. We're both nurses, so that automatically makes us amazing. Shout out to all the nurses. And we're also quite passionate about delegation, but I actually defer to you as the expert. So talk to us about what you do around delegation.
Thanks, Beck. And I have to say, I love this Lockdown Library and the initiative. So congratulations to you for doing this. Look, I am a little obsessed about delegation. I find in all the work that I've done over the years with all of the leaders that I've worked with, that if they can nail this, it literally solves so many of their other leadership problems that they might experiencing. And I liken it to, and I've stolen this quote, but it's the tide that lifts all boats. So if people delegate effectively, they lift themselves and they lift their team. So yeah, I'm very, very excited that it makes such a difference.
Yeah, and I obviously I follow you on LinkedIn, and I think you give away such a wealth of information on LinkedIn. So if people don't follow you, they should probably think about doing that straight away. Now you've donated XX Project to the Lockdown Library, but that's not your only book, is it? You have another book called Connect Us. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that first?
Yes, so well, Connecting Us. So the XX Project, which we will talk about, was written in 2015 for a specific reason. And then when I started focusing on leadership in general, and particularly middle management, there was a big gap for me in around what leaders need to do to build high-performing teams. So Connecting Us is to address some gaps, not all gaps, but some gaps around. It's in three parts. So the first part is around who am I? So as a leader, who are they as a leader? What are their strengths? What do they value? What are their skills? And then I go into exploring, well, who are they? And they being their team, and helping build that awareness of who their team are. And then the third part is the Connecting Us, which is how do we bring what we know about ourselves and what we know about our team together so that they connect and lead to that high performance.
Fantastic. And that at the moment, that connection is even more important right now as we're all feeling disconnected.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Yeah. So the XX Project you wrote a few years ago, what was the motivation for the book?
So there's a cover. Never put XX in a book title. It's really not useful from a search perspective for lots of reasons. When I wrote this, I was doing a lot of work with one of the major banks in Australia, and I was curious about the level of gender diversity at leadership levels. And when I checked with the organisation, and I wasn't there to talk about gender diversity or do that work, but I was there to work with people, which is obviously my passion. But when I asked about what's the leadership levels looking like as far as a gender mix, they were still very much weighted, and this would have been back in 2000, around 2010, they were very much weighted towards obviously more men than more females. And I asked them what their targets were for the next 12 months, thinking that I would help them lift those targets. And when they said they wanted a 1% increase, so they're sitting at around 30% of women in senior leadership roles, and the rest were men. And when they said they wanted to get to 31 or 32%, I was slightly horrified that they were taking such a conservative and slow approach. And so I made it my mission to start working with women in that organisation to get them into the pipeline, ready to step up. Because basically they're saying we don't have women in the pipeline that we can promote. And so then in 2014, when I started writing the XX Project, it was really tapping into all of those lessons that I learned. Now, unfortunately, the numbers still haven't changed that much. This is still a huge issue for organisations. So it's like my book is still completely topical, and it really focuses on just giving women the confidence to step up.
Yeah. And so do you feel as though that confidence is a big part of it, or is it much more than that?
Look, it's much more than that. And I'm just really focusing on this one thing, because if we are feeling confident, we will push ourselves outside of our comfort zone and try something different, if we aren't feeling the confidence, we're not going to do that. So if I can at least get women confident to look at a job application and not rule themselves out if there's 3 things out of 10 that they can't do, to actually go, well, let's give it a crack anyway and see how we go. If I can give women the confidence to negotiate their salary, then I'm really happy. Now, it isn't necessarily confidence that is going to change our gender diversity scores, but hopefully it'll create more women in that pipeline.
And so getting into that pipeline, is that around qualifications or experience, or is it more just that women aren't putting themselves into that pipeline?
Yeah, so less of the first two, definitely women not necessarily putting themselves into the pipeline. There's still very much a blokey atmosphere, particularly in large corporates. And it's almost like we've never reached that tipping point to be able to change that blokiness. There's a lot of aspects of, if you're not like me or you don't behave like me, then you're not going to do a good job. And so it's probably less now, but certainly, 15 or 20 years ago, women in senior leadership roles really had to take on a lot of those masculine attributes and appear more blokey just to fit in and survive. And of course, that wasn't bringing, it's not the diversity of gender that I'm wanting, although it is. It's actually that diversity of thinking, and we're just not tapping into that broadening of thinking that we need to. And I'd love to cover all aspects of diversity. Gender for me is a simple one, because if I can focus on women, that just helps.
And it sounds as though Connecting Us is natural progression from that, teaching leaders to think about themselves and us and connecting those, so that we are going to get that diversity and not that blinkered view of, if you're not like me, you won't do a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely not targeted at women. It's very general.
Yeah.
But ultimately should achieve the same sort of result.
Yeah, well, I think it's important that men would read Connecting Us to learn about their own unconscious bias that we all have, really.
Yeah. And it's good to have 2 books now, because obviously when I am working with men, giving them a pink book with the XX on it, they generally will put it down and never read it. It's just as applicable for men as well, because obviously there's a lot of men out there that have confidence issues, but yeah.
And so how are you working with organisations at the moment? How do people work with you right now around the work that you're doing for delegation?
Well, like so many of people, and probably like you as well, Beck, I've had to move a lot of my stuff, well, all of my stuff online. So anything that I was doing face-to-face, so whether it was coaching or workshops or facilitating, say, strategic sessions, that's all been moved online. And pretty much that's how I do it. I'm doing webinars, which is just me talking at groups, but I also do a lot of interactive workshops. And of course, the facilitation is there, and you just get creative about how you can do it. And you still get, I think, in some cases, even better outcomes because you've changed how you're connecting.
Yeah, I must admit, I've because I've had some free time, I've done a few online courses, and just the very relaxed webinar courses I've really enjoyed, particularly when there's not too many people involved. It's almost, you feel like it's a one-on-one session.
Yeah.
You get really up close and personal. You get rid of that stuffy kind of classroom feel.
Yes, I agree. And I think because so many people that used to do face-to-face work, and obviously will again, are used to not relying on PowerPoint, that we're using flip charts, we're using paper on walls, we're using colour. We're trying to incorporate that into the webinar format as well, so it does make it more personal and more engaging.
Yeah. So have you got a tip for people today to go out and be better, maybe about both of the books, a tip about, that confidence for women and a tip about delegation?
Well, for women, I would say, just go for it. Just give it a go. Just trust yourself. If you're even looking at something that you want to apply for, although obviously there's less roles out there at the moment, don't doubt yourself, because job descriptions are just wish lists. If you're leading a team and you are doing it remotely, don't overdo the face-to-face, because that can almost become a form, the Zoom sessions, that can become a form of almost micromanaging, always wanting to check up. I have had some clients say, but if I can't see them, how do I know they're working? And I said, then why haven't you set up the roles so that you know what the outcomes are and what's expected of people? And of course, this all comes back to delegating effectively as well. So there's a lot of, you stay trusting your team. Just because you can't see them, don't assume that they're not there doing their work, because they will be. And don't overdo the Zoom sessions because they're exhausting.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm very lucky that I've always had a remote team. My assistant lives in the Philippines, and so we've had to work out systems where I don't always know what she's doing, but I know what the outcome is, and so I can delegate, and if the outcome happens, all good. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I do take some of your advice.
Good to hear, Beck.
So how do people get in touch with you?
So they can either email me directly, so it's mari@mariburgess.com, and Mari is MAREE. They can certainly phone me on my phone number. I'm happy if you want to put that into any notes that you're putting with this.
Sure.
Or of course, you can go to my website and through that contact me as well at www.mari@ oh my goodness, I was doing my email, mariburgess.com.
Beautiful.
Very simple.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. It's been great to talk to you. I've known you for a while now, but we don't get to talk very often.
Not often enough, no.
No, but it's been brilliant. And thank you so much for generously donating your book. And yes, I hope people get on board and get in touch with you now, because delegation, like you say, makes a leader, not a manager.
That's it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.